Away was on record, followed further back in the field. Then down the outside, Mukatita's coming late. But as they race inside the 200, and it looks as though John Hawkes has got the national record this time, because Massive has raced away, and it's all Massive. Congratulations, John Hawke, the new national record. He's down on the line, has won by a big space. On Sarama's second, followed by Southern Butterfly, then Mukatita, Bogong Hill. Further back, Apprentice, followed then by True Romance.
Ah, yes, and what a record it was too. Previously held by David Hayes, set back in 91, 92, and John Hawkes has broken the Commonwealth record, or the national record as we'd call it now, of 306.5 winners, and that was established during the week with the gallop you just saw there in the shape of Massive at Goulburn. What a day for John Hawkes, one of the many memorable occasions for this wonderful career for John Hawkes. We're about to introduce him to you. He's our special guest on the show, and rightfully so. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Racing Retro. It's my pleasure to introduce you to the team, to Joe McKinnon. Joe, good morning to you.
Good morning, Graham.
You're a very big fan of John Hawkes, aren't you?
Of course I am, like many people.
Like many people, and here's the man himself. John, congratulations again, and thanks for joining us on the show this morning.
Thanks, Graham.
Goulburn, it was Goulburn, but nonetheless a very special day.
Yeah, well, winners are winners, Graham, and I mean, it's just how it worked out. So I don't think it matters where you do it, as long as you do it. So, but it was a great day for not only myself, but I think all the people, you know, that are tied up with the stable, and a lot of people behind the scenes.
And in saying good morning to you, John, that really is a marvellous feat, isn't it, when you think of it?
I thought of him, you know, on Friday afternoon. He'd have been at home, and I've been to the house. I know exactly where the monitor is, and I pictured you standing in front of that monitor, booting Massive home. You must have been a little excited.
I was. Oh, yeah, well, as I said, you know, that's something I have wanted ever since I've been in Sydney when I first come there. And I mean, it was, you know, I think we had about 3 odds on favourites before that one, so I was getting to the point where when it was going to happen, but yeah, it was tremendous, you know. I was excited on the day.
I don't want to take anything away from him, but he does look a one-pace type.
Yeah, well, he'll go down in history, I think, but not only for that. I think Kembla Grange, where he, you know, went through the rail with Alan Robinson.
Oh, that's
so I think, you know, people will, you know, won't forget him in a hurry.
John, how determined were you to break the record, especially in recent weeks when you saw that it was reachable?
Well, it was only about 3 or 4 weeks ago when, you know, Bob, you know, come on one Monday when they come down and suggested we were getting, you know, close to the record. So up until then we hadn't really thought about it too much. So, but after that, well, we tried to sort of put everything together, and it worked out terrific.
Well, it's time to say good morning to the team in Melbourne, Richard Friedman and Simon Marshall, who's back from holidays. Nice to... Oh, have a look at this. A picture tells a story here. Looks a bit Piccadilly. Bit Piccadilly, boys.
Chilly?
Yeah.
You couldn't have sat us in a worse spot here.
Oh, Richie, it's a little bit chilly. It's a long way from the heart, the old man would say.
The boys here are all laughing, and they think it's hysterically funny.
Johnny Hawkes, congratulations. Fantastic feat there from Morfettville in Adelaide to Wepsonham in Melbourne to Randwick in Sydney.
Absolutely.
And might I say too, John, it would have been great for the family too to get together and have a think about what's just been completed too.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks, Richard.
No name calling there. You can't call me any names this morning, Hawksy, but congratulations, and a very big effort, I might say. I think that was fantastic to train that many winners.
Well, you do your best, Richard, so you know what it's like. So, I mean, there's a lot of people behind the scenes. It's not just me, mate, so...
Absolutely, but it takes someone at the top of the tree to steer the ship, doesn't it, to combine and mix some cliches there.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, I've known Hawksy for a long time, Richie, and I know that all the boys, the family, and John's wife too, would have been a big feat all around there.
Yeah. Good family effort.
I'd just like to say something here, John, and I didn't realise this until I just had to chat to you just before we went on camera. Your association with the Inghams goes a lot further back than most would think.
Yeah, well, it started, you know, when I first went to Melbourne, you know, about 4 or 5 years before that again, so... You know, it was sort of, that's where it started, and,
When you say where it started, just what
well, you know, I was in Adelaide training, and there was a consortium. There was Inghams, LaPointe, Robert Sangster and Norman Carline. They wanted me to go to Melbourne to train, and they took me to Melbourne, and I trained some horses for them, and that's where it really started. We had a little bit of success, but nothing outstanding, but we did very well, and that's where I met Jack and Bob, and that's where I went from there.
And the first winner you trained for them, do you remember that?
Be quite honest, I really can't remember that one.
No.
You know, that one.
What was the horse? I mean, you mentioned a horse by the name of King of Shadows. What was the relevance of that?
Yeah, King of Shadows was the first horse that I actually trained and rode when I took out my licence. At that time I had a dual licence, which are good in those days.
Yeah. We're talking back in the early 70s, aren't we?
Yeah, I think it was 71.
Yeah.
So it was, well, I rode it, trained it, and was owned by my wife's parents.
Really?
So it was a real family day that particular day, but in those days things were a bit tough. I think I had 2 horses in those days, so things have come a long way since then.
How many would you have in work now across the 4 states?
Well, I think there's about 430 on the books, you know, this season, and I think we average around the 200, you know, every season, Joe.
Many people ask, how does John Hawkes manage so many horses?
Well, we're very well organised, and I mean, we've got great staff, you know, throughout Australia, and that's really what it's all about. You're only as good as the people that are working for you, and everybody knows, as I said, it takes more than one person to get somebody to the top, but, you know, you've got a plan for these things.
Won't walk, eh?
No, well, that was the old days at Carbine Lodge, which, you know, we used to get around there. But this day and age, all the boys do that sort of thing. So, but we've got a great team, Joe, and I mean, really, that's what it's all about.
And Jack and Bob, what do they like to work for, John?
They're business people, but they're fantastic people. I mean, they love their racing with passion. I mean, you know, all the, you know, the horses they got, the studs, the money they put into the game. I mean, if they really wanted to earn dollars, you'd put it in the bank and earn interest. But they love what they do. I mean, and they, you know, they get as excited winning a race at Goulburn as what they do winning Group 1s. I mean, that's what it's really all about. And then we had the Ocky. Well, you know, I think that's what they've always wanted, a champion, and well, that's what I really wanted myself. So that was part of the aim of coming to Sydney. But they're great people. They, you know, they love their horses and they love their racing.
Haven't they been wonderful for racing?
Oh, well, as I said, you'll always get some people to say, you know, there's plenty of money, this, that. But as I said, they employ a lot of people. I mean, we've got stables in 4 states. They've got studs. As I said, you know, if they really want to earn a dollar, you know, you'd put it in the bank. But they're tremendous people.
And you talk about support. You've got fabulous support from the family. You really do. Yeah,
well, you know, Jen's been, you know, a great mainstay right from day one. You know, my 2 boys, you know, they're a sort of, you know, a real big plus, you know, with the family. So, you know, as I said, you know, Peter Snowden in Sydney, David Pannell in Adelaide, but you know, I mean, you know, my parents, I mean, you know, Dad's not in real good health at this point in time, but you know, they still watch all the, you know, they got the Sky and they watch all the races at home, and, you know, they are all very excited.
Yeah. Where'd you meet Jen?
Oh, at the races one day, at the barrier trial, sorry. I rode one of her parents' horses in one of the barrier trials, and naturally when she seen me, she couldn't take her eyes off me. But anyway, as I said, but you know, she's been great, and you know, so we've been married a lot of years, so I suppose she's got to put up with it.
Oh, have a look at this.
You haven't changed much either, you know.
No, I put on a little bit of weight, I think, Tappy, but you know, Jen hasn't changed. She's always been a Group 1, so she hasn't changed. So.
Hey, that's a Swiss restaurant you're in there. It's got Venetian blinds. Where'd you take her?
Oh, I think that was actually out near her place, and actually we went to see Lovelace Watkins, I think, that particular night.
Lovelace Watkins?
What a performance.
So that's going back a lot of years.
Now, funny you mention his name. I saw him at the Talk of the Town in London after a derby one day. Yeah. And I've never seen a performer work as hard on stage ever. Yeah. He put everything into it, didn't he?
Oh, he was fantastic. I mean, actually, he used to come out in those days, and we used to go every year after that, and he was fantastic. So.
How did we get on to Lovelace Watkins?
I don't know.
Just before we go on with the rest of the show, because I know Hawks will be interested in it. It is a bit of a cold morning in Melbourne for more than one reason. John Hicks, who is one of who Hawksy would know well, old Hicksy was the starter at Epsom when we were both training there, John, as you remember.
He opened up the track.
He did. He used to open the track. A great supporter of racing. And tragically, he died at the races yesterday. On course, he had a heart attack and
loading a horse up for the first race.
So commiserations, you know, and our thoughts go to his family.
Everybody that knew Hicksy loved him.
Yep.
Because John Hicks was one of these guys, he couldn't stand still. He used to walk 8Ks every morning,
He did.
Richie.
He did.
He was full of life. He always had something to offer.
He was 72.
You went to meet Hicksy, as Johnny Hawks would say. Hey, Hawksy?
Yes, well, it's a sad day for his family, and condolences to them. But in saying that, he was doing something that he loved, and as I said, you know, I mean, if you're going to go, I suppose that's the way to go. But I'm sure it's a sad day for his family.
Yeah.
On a brighter note, the Spring Carnival is dawning, John. What are your prospects like? Yeah,
well, we've got a lot of young horses this year, Joe. I mean, we've still got Hire and Over and Freemason and that type of horse. Lions, you know, come back from injury, and you know, so we've perhaps got a lot more younger horses that we've perhaps got to make this season.
Firstly, Freemason, your Queensland Derby winner. Is the Melbourne Cup going to be his main target?
Well, he's still in work in Queensland. He's due back this week from Queensland, and we're really aiming at maybe the Caulfield and Melbourne Cup. But I think he's more a genuine Caulfield Cup horse than maybe a Melbourne Cup horse. But he spelled very well and he's done well, so he'll be ready to resume early September.
How do you measure him against the 3-year-olds at the moment in Australia?
Oh, I think it's been a very even year this year, and I think he's certainly going to be very competitive. I think the weight factor has a lot to do with Caulfield Melbourne Cups these days, especially the Melbourne Cup with the overseas horses coming now. Naturally, they always seem to be a little bit better weighted, the overseas horses.
Is Hire a more exciting horse than he is?
Oh, he's a different type of horse. He's more the, the Epsom Cox Plate type of horse. I think, they're just different types of horses. One's a real genuine stayer and, one's more the sprinter type of horse, but they're both very, very good horses.
What about Over?
Yeah, well, he won the Doncaster. I mean, he's a great little horse. He's a little bit underrated and a very genuine horse, and as I said, he's due back next week and he'll be heading, hopefully, maybe to the Cox Plate.
Did he surprise you a bit winning the Doncaster?
No, he didn't surprise. I mean, he was always perhaps what you call our second string, but in saying that, he was well ridden on the day, he drew a good gate and everything panned out tremendous. But I still think Hire was the unlucky horse of the race. He missed the start and just got too far back in the race. But as I said, sometimes when you've got two runners, that's what happens. One has the luck, one doesn't.
John, was that your highlight for the season? Is that the one that gave you the biggest thrill?
No.
Particularly with Gouch up and all?
No, that was tremendous. But, I think winning the Oaks in Melbourne, the VRC Oaks, that was
really?
Perhaps my highlight of the year. It was a race that I'd set the filly for and everything worked out tremendous, on the day. And, there's been a lot of highlights, but I think the Oaks was the
And
one.
a bit of Tall Trees deja vu too.
Yeah, well, as I said, I've got two horses that I really, and she's the one that really started me, and I'll never forget her. And Octagonal, of course, who's kicked on, so they're just two things that I'll never ever forget.
Yep.
John, I've got a bit of a soft spot for Hire. I think he's very much a natural talent. Was he just unlucky this preparation, being his Doncaster preparation, and how's he done in the paddock?
Yeah, he's done great, Simon. He's back in work now, and he'll resume most probably the middle of next month. But things just didn't exactly pan out right last time. The tracks were, a little bit funny, and things never went right. He was maybe still a little immature.
Just on Hire, is he got to lift a little bit? He got a big boom around him, and I know that there's been excuses for him, but has he got to lift some now to be in that top grade, John?
I think he's got to perform now to sort of be put in the top category, Richard, but in saying that, a lot of that was, the press sort of pumped him up a little bit higher than perhaps what he should be. I always like my horses to perform and earn their stripes before we put him in the top category, but I think he'll rise to the occasion this year. And naturally, yes, he has to get up to that top level, but I think he will. And
Tributes, how's she done?
Yeah, she's done great. She looks tremendous, and she's perhaps heading towards the Caulfield Melbourne Cup too, and really looking forward to to her getting back on the track, and because her winning the VRC Oaks was excellent, and when she ran second in the Oaks, she'd been sick in Melbourne, and she overcome that and got back to the track, but she really wasn't at her best in the autumn.
It's a perfect filly to come down to Caulfield for a Caulfield Cup 2 Hawksy, in which they've got a great great strike rate, I suppose.
4-year-old mare's got a great record in the Caulfield Cup.
Yeah, I think she'll be, reasonably well weighted. She perhaps hasn't got quite the boom on her, and I think she'll be a definite chance for sure.
Okay.
A line, just before we move on.
Yes, no, that's right. I was going to talk about ask about a line.
Place getter for you.
Yeah,
he went off the boil a bit after his size win. How's he going now?
He's fine. He perhaps didn't come up quite well last time, but he had a slight injury, and he trialled terrific at Canterbury, last week, and he's ready to resume in the missile this week, and depending on how he goes, whether he'll run in the Premier or go to Melbourne for the Manikato, but he's really come back terrific this time.
Was there anything wrong with him?
He had a little slight leg injury, and I just sort of opted on the safer side, and the campaign was all gone because it happened about a week before he's ready to resume, so that's why I gave him a little bit longer, but he's come back tremendous.
You've got a couple of promising 2-year-olds, one, I believe, by the name of Agile.
Yeah, actually, she's a half-sister to Align. She's out of the same. She's by Canny Lad, so she trialled very, very well at Canterbury. I was very pleased with her, and she may resume at Kembla Grange this Saturday. So she's still learning, and she's perhaps not all there yet, but she will be a lovely filly, I feel, in the autumn.
And you've got Curator Storm in that as well?
Yeah, nice horse. He's only had the one run. He ran 4th at Rosehill last preparation, and he's come back very well. He's perhaps heading maybe to the Spring Championship and maybe into the Derby.
Yeah. One to follow out of all those? 2-year-olds?
Well, I think, as I said, I think she's a very promising filly, I'm sort of, very well both those horses, I think. But we've got a lot of those sort of horses in the stable that perhaps haven't got names yet. They've got to earn their stripes, but they're heading in the right direction, Graham.
Yeah. John, there's a lot of pressure involved in all this. I mean, we're just taking into consideration everything you've spoken about this morning, all the horses, the Inghams, the big races. What's the pressure like?
No, I think pressure's only what you put on yourself, Graham, personally. I mean, it's that's something that doesn't really worry me all that much. I think if, you know, you do your best and work hard, I don't think there's no real pressure in my opinion. Yeah. So, I mean, as I said, you know, I enjoy what I do, and I think that's part of it too. You know, I work long hours, but if you enjoy something you're doing, I don't think it's as hard as doing something that you don't really like.
And how true is that, enjoying going to work? Yeah. It's vital, isn't it?
Well, I'm one of the lucky ones. I mean, as I said, you know, I'm getting paid for what I really enjoy. I mean, I love horses. You know, I mean, it's great being a horse trainer. I mean, some people are still only doing it to earn a living, but, you know, I'm sort of doing something I love. So I get it both ways, and that's why, you know, I shift around a lot, and I really enjoy it.
Tell you the most amazing thing about you is your ability to put your brain in 4 or 5 different directions. You take more mobile telephone calls than any horse trainer I know. I know blokes with 20 or 30 in work who refuse to take a mobile with them because they want to concentrate on what they're doing. You have the ability to be engaged in conversation, talking to Peter Snowden, and watching 8 horses over there all at the same time.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, I mean, that's just sort of the, you know, the way I am. But as I said, you have to be sort of focused when you're sort of trying to do those particular things. But that's part of the business today, and that's what it is. It is a business today. It's not so much a sport anymore. And you've sort of, as I said, I work long hours, but as I said, Peter Snowden works just as long as what I do, and so do a lot of my other staff.
You don't like holidays, do you?
No, well, it's not so much don't like holidays. I mean, I shift interstate and I shift around. I'm not stuck in one spot. So, but basically, you know, lying on a beach or something, no, I don't.
That's what I was going to say. If I offered you a palatial suite in Honolulu, you and Jenny, for 10 days, all excess paid, and luxury the like of which you've never seen before.
He'd take it.
You'd be bored silly after 2 days, wouldn't you?
No, I wouldn't take. You would, Richard. You'd love that.
Don't try and con me, Hawksy. You'd be on the plane in a second.
I was just got to say, though,
all expenses paid.
If anybody was fortunate enough to go and spend a week with Johnny Hawks, they'd want to get a good month's rest prior, because I'm tipping he sleeps with one eye open. Back at Epsom in Melbourne, he used to come into the sauna while all us jocks were in there sweating hard and whatnot. Hawksy couldn't sleep of a night around 7:30, 8 o'clock when he should be just getting ready to go to bed. He'd come in for a sweat, then he'd jog back out and say, I'll see you at 4 o'clock in the morning, boys.
It was even worse then because he had more than one owner then. He had about 400 of them. Yeah. You think he was taking some mobile phone calls then?
Yeah, no doubt about that. Yeah. Plenty of energy, Hawksy.
Oh, well, as I said, Richard and Simon, I mean, that's really what it's all about. But as I said, I enjoy what I do. That's the main thing.
Well, talk about one of the really grand horses that you've trained in recent years has to be Flavour. And it just got pipped yesterday.
Yeah, well, look, he's been a tremendous horse. He's been since he was a 2-year-old, and he keeps coming up, preparation after preparation, and you know, it must have been maybe the white bridle that never got him over the line yesterday. I see, you know, so. And that'd be one of Richard's horses, or Lee's horses that beat us.
You can't get rid of those white bridle because you've got about 50 of them. It'd be too expensive to replace them all with leather. That'd be the only reason you wouldn't get rid of them. You couldn't like them.
Well, comment though there yesterday, Johnny, he had a little bit of trouble at the start with Flavour, and then he balanced up, flew home once again. What happened at the start?
It was a terrific effort. I feel sure if he hadn't got squeezed at the start, he most probably would have won. He just lost his momentum, pushed him back that touch further, and 1,000 metre, you can't afford that to happen, but it was still a great effort.
Yeah, that of course was
back last year, but, you know, by the same token, he does get a magnificent run through near the fence, around the turn and up the straight. A lot of people thought he might have still won in a very tricky photo finish. Honour the name in the box seat for Chris Muntz with the white blaze, and now gets a rails run. There's Flavour. Watch Gouts looking for openings.
They sprinted up on the inside of her and took over the running. Then Glamorimus, Joshua's Pride held up for a run, and then Flavour. Honour the name clear, 150 out from North East Sheila. Joshua's Pride in the clear, and then Flavour. It's Honour the name, 50 out, a length and a half clear. He's getting tied. Flavour's bursting through late, lunging close. Honour the name and Flavour hitting it together. Joshua's Pride third.
Honour the name, one of 3 winners for Chris Muntz at 7-2. Flavour 5-1. Joshua's Pride 7-1. Glamorimus was favourite at 3s. First up, Andrew Bensley and Lee Friedman.
Yeah, I was so happy with the horse. I mean, the plan was after he won the Angus Brute that we'd come back for the early weight for age races because you know, if we get wet tracks, it's certainly an advantage for this horse to get wet ground, as he did today, and probably the wetter the better. So that gives him his opportunity early in the spring before the really gun sprinters come round.
Did he have much time off after the win in the Angus Prix?
He had 2 weeks off at St Ives and was just boxed at night, went out in the paddock during the day, and then we started working him up there again, and he came back up to the stable here about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
All right, now, after the win today, and I mean, you said straight after the race that he sort of tired a little bit just in the last 50 or 80 odd metres.
Yeah, which is understandable because I think the horse was probably ridden a bit handier than we normally would have. Got to the front a bit earlier than we probably would have liked with the 57, but he's done a good job overall to hold off a horse like Flavour, who, you know, met him pretty well under the scale, I thought.
Well, there you go. Now, looking at it again this morning, you're convinced you should have won?
Oh, I thought he was unlucky. I'm sure if he hadn't got squeezed at the start, I think his momentum, he would have been that length closer. He'd have still been back in the field, but that, you know, that's racing. I mean, as I said, it was still a great effort by Lee's horse. I mean, he's only a young horse on the way up, and the weight for age scale doesn't really suit the younger horses as much now because they're a lot closer to the weights than the older horses.
I think I've got to agree with you there, Hawksy, that he's a 3-year-old, he's carrying a 4-year-old's weight. And you know, your old bloke is a tough old sprinter. He's been around in all those sort of events. He's used to carrying that sort of weight. He's used to the rough and tumble weight for age racing. So it's probably a good effort for a little horse. And he's only 15 hands onto the name, and he had to do it at both ends. And, you know, I thought he did a fair job, not taking anything away from your horse. With a bit more luck, probably would have beaten him, but not on the day.
Hawksy would have been a little bit of history repeating if Flavour had it dead heated with Honour the Name there, as he did last year with this gear in that race.
I think those colours deserve to get the bob of the head in a decent race sooner or later. They lost a decent one a few years ago.
But to be fair, Richie, Flavour just likes to balance up in his races and always hits the line hard.
Absolutely.
And also Joshua's Pride there too. He's had a long layoff with injuries. He did have one run back down the straight at Flemington, and Mark Riley and his camp there will be very happy with the way he finished his race off after getting held up a little bit there too yesterday.
Yep.
Righto, Andrew Bensley caught up with some of the beaten riders after the Monash Stakes.
Lucky, probably cost him a race at the start where the inside horses just jumped out a little bit and they end up across Glamorimus's backside and had to take hold for a stride. He's always going to get back, but it sort of sent him back a little bit further. Had it been 1100, I'm sure he would have won. Yeah, it was a top effort.
Yeah, he ran well. He got back in behind him. He was a little bit reluctant to race up inside a few and got a little bit of a prat in the straight and finished off well to run third.
Well, Matt, another good effort by Rancho Spark today.
Yeah, it was. He ran fourth. He jumped out, just settled in behind him and he ran home well.
I just talking to Neville and watching the replay. He just had Ted slow away, and with the super speed of North East Sheila, just had to use him a little bit to get him there. And Neville came in and he said, look, 1,000 metres was far too short for him. We've got to step him up a bit further. He just had to work a bit hard to keep with him over the 1,000. So we'll see how he pulls up. The Bletchingley's there over 1,100, but I'll also see what else is in the calendar. There could be a 1,200 metre handicap, which I might even have a look at that.
Yeah, she's got tremendous natural early speed. You know, I was pretty happy with the run. She sort of knew going into it that she wouldn't need it. She seemed to pull up all right, and very happy with her.
OK, first event yesterday at Caulfield, an open 2-year-old event. This winner, Regal Shot, had one previous start in January at Benalla and got beaten about 10 lengths, so he must have had plenty of problems that day. He's at 20-1 here. The favourite, Happy Jackpot, not in the race.
From Mr. Magistrate, running on a still back amongst the tail enders as they cornered, where Regal Shot's kicked away on them. And Regal Shot shot about 3 lengths in front. Kashkai gets up to second. Happy Jackpot can't go on. Goodnight Kisses running on well on the outside, but Regal Shot with a big lead, about 50 to go. Kashkai's taking late ground off Regal Shot. He's stopping. Regal Shot just in front. Fell in. Regal Shot, I think, just beat to Kashkai, and about 4 lengths away, Waterloo Bridge.
That horse was spec'd 40s into 20s, Regal Shot, ridden by Michael Barlow for trainer Brendan McCarthy, who speaks with Andrew Bensley.
40s to 20-1. Hopefully you had something of that.
Yes, we got a little bit of it. That it was just a great thrill to win. The horse goes very well, and I'm quite excited about his future prospects.
Well, it had a run at Benalla going back in January. Went for an automatic smell. Bit of shin soreness?
Yes, a bit of shin soreness. There was probably a number of reasons. He was probably a little bit field shy and things like that as well. But
but that day just never got into the race, unfortunately.
Yeah, okay.
But we did expect him to go well that day as well.
All right. So you came to today, you were pretty confident about things. What sort of future now for Regal Shot?
Well, he was still quite soft today. There was aspects of him that will show a dramatic improvement, especially, you know, you could see him probably tiring quite a bit the last 50 metres, but he went into today's race a little bit soft. His shins was probably just worrying him a little bit, but we thought that going into the race he's better off being physically fit and mentally fit than just pushing his shins over the top a bit. So he's gone in today's race just that little bit soft, but still was able to hang on.
Okay, you're looking at races like the Mitchell Mackenzie at the Valley, and also, if you can press on, the race like the Ascot Vale.
Well, they're the ones we've got in mind, and I really think that the way the horse goes, he's probably got more ability than any horse that I've had for quite a while, so he's got the potential to go right on with the job.
Good on you, Brendan. Well done. And as Brendan said, he's pretty excited about the prospects of Regal Shot. Shin sore at Benalla, eh, boys?
Well, that's stewards did quiz Brendan fairly extensively after the race because naturally, you know, punters were a bit confused when a horse runs last at a midweek at Benalla and then comes out and wins on a Saturday at Caulfield.
After a break?
After a little break. It is a huge jump, though, but Brendan did explain that the horse did not feel right at Benalla, and the jockey did report that day that he was feeling sore and not stretching out properly, and as Brendan said then, he was a little field shy as well. So horses, especially young horses, can make that sort of improvement, and the stewards accepted that, and good luck to them, 40s to 20s.
It's the natural element of racing, Richie. Time solves everything, and he was bred by the family too up at Seymour there.
Yep.
This horse, congratulations to Brendan. He doesn't gain too many opportunities. Neither does the jockey, Michael Barlow. He's a very good jock in the making, but keep your eye on the second horse too, who finished on beautifully from the Colin Little stable.
Cash Kai or Cash Kai?
I don't know, Richie, you're the one that gets everything right. Cash Kai, I'd be saying.
It's sort of spelled like Hawaii, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right, Rich. Kai.
Greg Miles calls it Cash Kai, and that'll do me.
Yeah.
Right, second race. 3-year-old fillies, 1,400 metres. John's Legacy looked home here. Brompton's Girl makes a late dive on its inside and grabs it in the last bound.
Came round the home turn, and next Eula Good Night, and then Citrium Under Pressure and Silver Atom into the straight now, and John's Legacy is the leader. Kicking through again is Veloci on the rail, clear then of Super Wench, then Lauriston Lass battling away, and Eula Good Night not in it at the moment. John's Legacy led and held Veloci with 100 metres to go. Coming through, Brompton's Girl down on the inside. John's Legacy clear, 50 to go. Brompton's Girl getting to her on the inside. John's Legacy, Brompton's Girl grabbed her. Might have got there, Brompton's Girl over John's Legacy. Photo finish. Be My Princess, I think, held third from you.
Brompton's Girl 11 to 2, 4 is John's Legacy, 11 to 2 Be My Princess, and Eula Good Night favourite at 11 to 4. Winners trained by Jim Mason, ridden by Julian Harris. Hey Simon, during the running of that race we were chatting with Hawksy here as to whether or not you rode for the stable in Melbourne. Did you ride a winner for Hawksy? He couldn't quite remember.
No, I don't think I did, Mr. Hawks. I did ring you plenty of times to jump on your horses.
You had to ride work for Hawksy to get right.